Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Podcast. I'm Jake Maxey. Today we're going to talk about growing your engineering career and chasing your full potential and all the challenges along the way. Ultimately, we want everyone listening to have access to a fulfilling career and be inspired to become the best versions of themselves. Steve is here with me today, as always.
Hello.
Can't get rid of this guy. He's an engineering manager for Klein Tools, a 150-plus-year-old family-owned hand tool manufacturer for the trade professional. Such a mouthful. I am a professional engineer for Hallam ICS, a company that provides multiple engineering services, including mechanical, electrical, and process design for the built environment. That's who we are. That's what we're doing here. Let's have some fun.
I think we need to truncate that just a little bit. All right. Well, our standard episode format, like today, is Jake and I presenting a topic. We introduce the why and the how around this topic and give some tips to get the conversation going and inspire some action.
Very well truncated, Steve.
Thank you.
Occasionally, we have quick solo episodes where we talk to you for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then that's it, and you walk away with something, hopefully. We call it Wednesday Wisdom.
And about once a month, someone joins us on the show, and it's awesome, and you should listen to those too.
These are called guest episodes.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Well, it was super important that we get through that, Steve, because now we have the good stuff.
Yes, indeed.
The episode today is about delegation. It's one of my favorite topics ever. I have some pretty hard stances on it. That's just how I run my show and how I do it. So take that as you will. But there are some good and bad things to do around the topic of delegation. So you'll hear some of that today. Steve's got a great story for you. Delegation, why it's important. All right. So it's not all about just delegation. It's not all about the delegation. It's about training, development, growing others, other engineers' foundation. And yes, freeing up your time, right? You can use it for that as well. So I'm just going to hop right in.
Let's do it.
Strategies around delegation. Like, when, who, what, why, how, all that stuff. When should you be delegating?
Yeah, let's start with when. The obvious one is when your workload is too high, right? When you're just slammed with a ton of work, it's the prime opportunity to find someone else who can support you in that endeavor and to delegate some tasks. Often, it's going to be when you need specialized support. So someone who's more experienced than you. If you're working on a project and you don't know how to do something, you find someone who can do it and you ask them to help you out. That's kind of the more obvious one. And then the other side is when you need support to focus on your own specialty. If you're the expert on something and you need to focus on that, but you have all this other stuff bogging you down, you can find someone who's a little less experienced to help you out on that. Also, as you said, learning opportunities, training, development. If you see someone on your team or even an adjacent team that could use some additional education in how to do something, you can delegate a task and oversee that process, and that will help them be better at their own job and improve their own skill sets. So you could do it. Yes, you could do it faster, but it is important to relinquish some of that control and to let others give it their best shot, and you will have a good enough result out of that task, but it will develop them and move them along in their skill set journey. So I think that's really important to identify those opportunities.
Yeah, I'll just come out and say, always.
Yes.
When should you delegate? Always and often. A lot. And before you actually have the quote unquote need to delegate. It's like you're talking about when workload is too high, and you want to spit some stuff out to people to help, even out the workload. And then if you haven't been delegating to them and teaching them and building that relationship and they know how you work and you know how they work and you know how often they should check in and based on what you're delegating, like how many iterations there should be, what the review process will look like. That's a lot of stuff to really get through. It can't just be all a process. Like there's no checklist that says, delegate this thing to this person, and then it should take 1 day, and then they should get this thing back, and then, oh, do I, it's a personalized thing. It's a relationship built between, people at work. So do it before you actually, quote unquote, need it. And that just takes relinquishing that control, doing it often, giving people things that you could do in less time than it even takes to delegate it. That's fine. Those are tasks that are worthy of delegation. If you're going to delegate something and it would take you 10 times the amount of time to do it than it does creating the delegation, maybe you're giving them something that's a little too tough. Maybe you need to break it down a little bit more, So don't use the, hey, I can do this faster than I can delegate it as a filter. That's not a good filter. I would say quite the opposite, actually. If you're going to have a hard time with it and you're trying to delegate it, you might want to rethink that a little bit. You should be delegating things that you are very well versed in if it's going to be a junior person, and you can delegate things that you're not very well versed in if you know somebody can absolutely handle that thing. So I wanted to make sure I said that too, like because you said specialized support. So yes, make sure that person actually is specialized in supporting that task, right? So those are my thoughts on when.
Yeah. And I'd like to add one last thing is often you can do a pretty thorough premeditated type delegation when there's a single project that can be split amongst multiple people. So you can accomplish that project much faster. If you have a giant project ahead of you, it would take you 5 years to complete yourself. But if you build a team together and have 7 people on there, now you can get it done in 9 months. So that is a more formal or team-oriented type delegation type thing. So that's another aspect of when you should delegate.
Yeah, you might be moving a little closer to like, that's just the business, right? This is how this is how you're going to get stuff done. Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good overall on the when to delegate, right? Because we want to be strategic, but we don't want to overthink it, and we want to be training. That's what I use delegation for a lot.
Yeah, I know we touched on who to delegate, right? Juniors for tasks that they can have good. So now we.
Steve, you high? Like, what's going on?
No, I'm good. I'm just like verbal bullshit. We did touch on who you can delegate to: juniors, seniors, peers. It just depends on the work. But I do have a little story, and you don't want to delegate to executives, right? A while back, an engineer sent an email to a VP and was like, hey, can you print this document, sign it, and bring it to my desk?
No, well,
yes.
Company you're in right now?
I'll leave that out.
We know the answer. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So don't do that. You can delegate things to more experienced people than you. You could even ask your direct manager if they can help you out on something. But there's a level that stops, right? You're not going to go directly to a VP or a president or some high level executive and be like, hey, can you do this meaningless task for me? Just don't do that.
I like how you just bring in the truth, though. Like, you should be doing those meaningless tasks. You hear us? You should be doing meaningless work.
Yeah.
That's that story. Like, good for that person for delegating, man. That's what I would say. Like, dude, good for you. But let's talk about. I mean, you could even just be, being serious here. Sending an email to someone whose job it is to run, the actual business, work on the business, keep work coming in and the direction of the company going, and making some big decisions and stuff to like ask them to print something and bring it to your desk. It's not about like superiority or like they're greater than thou. It's like, dude, it just kind of shows that you don't see the work level discrepancy there, and that the tasks that you're interrupting them doing are so much more valuable than that. It's going to be a little knock on you. Like, they're going to be like, okay, remember that time when this person, they can't trust it. It's going to be talked about. It's going to like,
Yeah.
and it's not irreparable, but like, yeah, okay, don't do that. Don't do that, guy. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's going to be
It's
joked
like
at
the
a holiday
nicest
party.
way I can put it. Yeah. I mean, if I did that, that'd be embarrassing for me, and I would be like, ah, shit. But, I'd get over it real quick.
Yeah.
I've done stupid shit like that. I mean, not like that, but I've said some pretty stupid stuff, and like, you just gotta go with it. Don't delegate to your don't delegate 15 step levels, right? It's not gonna work. All right, Steve, how can we fail at delegation? What does that mean to you to fail?
Well, to not be effective at it. So assigning work with vague direction with very little follow-up, right? You want to give as much direction as possible when you delegate and follow up as more direction is available, or to check in on the progress of the project or task. So that's one major one. One that
So
go ahead.
following up with enough, so like giving enough direction. I would say I would say giving as much direction as possible. You're going to be writing a novel, or like some process instruction booklet.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
would
a good point.
say, I would say figuring out like what is enough, and you'll trip a bunch if you haven't been delegating to this person before. But make that part of make that part of your communication. Like, you're never going to be you're not perfect at delegation ever. Like, I'm still not. I miss all sorts of stuff. It's just the rules have been, set the rules with the people. Like, you get to just like totally send that email right back, or shoot me a Teams message or text me like, hey, you missed giving me this. Do we have it? It's an open thing, an open dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, you're not going to overdefine the direction, because otherwise you'd be just doing it yourself. You're, if you're going to route wire through a building, right, for your industry, you're going to say, hey, the wire needs to go through this room and over there, and that's it. You're not going to say, hey, you need to go up at this point, over at this point, down at this point, and around this obstacle, et cetera, because otherwise you're just going to be doing it yourself.
Basically, like text describing what you could draw on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So there's too far and there's too little. So I'd say enough.
Yep, that's a good point. One that I've seen recently is blaming schedule slips because you gave work to someone and they didn't deliver it on time.
Oh, and then using that as a reason not to delegate anymore. Yuck.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. I dislike that very much.
Yeah.
Continue. How do we not do that?
Yeah. I mean, at appropriate time intervals, you need to check in on the progress. If you delegate, the task success is your responsibility. So you need to take ownership on that. If the person is not delivering, you need to find another resource before you just do it yourself, right? You don't want to just instantly go, oh, it wasn't being taken care of, I'm going to do it myself. You can find another resource, and if all the options are unavailable after that point, then you can tackle it yourself.
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, it's to keep listening to the podcast, but also, if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show.
Yeah, man. I'll add some stuff in there too. Like, you need to be smart about how you delegate. And it's your responsibility to set up these boundaries and conditions to not, you're setting up your risk level of this delegation so that you're not putting the person you're delegating to in a position to where they fail completely, right? So in your point where you're like, give them the work and then they're not getting it done, so you just take it right back, right? That should be a very rare occasion, just in case there's a surprise, then you explain that to them. But if you do that, you're basically telling that person that you failed, you weren't good enough, I'm taking it back to do this. And you may or may not get any more delegations from me. And then that other person's just like, depending on how they operate, they could take it really bad, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to reduce the risk that you're going to put someone in a position to just totally lose. So be aware of that when you're delegating. So I would say to prevent this, if you're new at delegation, start small and start low risk and low urgency, low impact stuff. Start delegating things that have a long period of time to complete and that they're not complex. So you can build wins, build momentum, build confidence, all that stuff for future, bigger, riskier delegations with more weight to them. Right. So, but never blame someone else for your slip. That's not going to help anything. And I can guarantee you the person that didn't get it done on time is already blaming themselves. Right. They're already thinking, shit, I messed up and that's terrible. You don't need to pile it on anyway.
Yeah, give grace.
Yep. And I would say the only way to fail completely a delegation is to give up delegating. Never stop. Use the micro failures as indicators of where you need to go and what you need to focus on. So if you're getting back crappy work, hey, let's figure out what makes this work less than desirable, and let's work on fixing that. Not blaming and saying, see, delegation sucks, and there is no one to delegate to. That's called giving up, and that's going to produce a terrible result over a long period of time. Unless your whole strategy is to do all the work yourself and that's your version of success, then by all means do that.
So moving on to how to be successful in delegation, right? All right. So
How do we succeed, Steve?
yes, there's a lot of strategies out there. You can, go online and search, delegation models. So I have a couple here that we can touch on. There's other ones that you can find and we'll kind of point you in the right direction there at the end. But the two that I want to talk about is the delegate model. So it's all caps, so, in your Google searching. And that stands for, first it's define the task clearly. All right. We've already talked about that. They need to understand the what, like what are they going to be working on? Followed that is evaluate their skills, make sure they can actually do what you need. After that is let them know what you need.
Yeah. So we, define the task clearly. Yep. They need to understand what is happening, what they need to be doing, right? To get it done, you evaluate their skills. Make sure you're making an effective delegation to the person that has the best chance to do it. And if not, you're identifying the gaps and helping them along. And then the L is let them know what you need back, right? So in my world, it would be, what is the deliverable of this thing? So if I'm going to tell someone that your task is to create a one-line diagram or a diagrammatic version of the power distribution system, that's the task. Give me the feeders, give me the stuff. But what I need back from you is a completed electrical one-line diagram sheet drawing that a contractor can use to price what he's going to provide for the project, right? So you're giving them the task and you're saying, what does this look like when you give it back to me?
And after the L is the E, which is establish the parameters. What are the boundaries and guidelines? This could be your budget, your deadlines, or packaging constraints, etc. After E is G, right? For delegate, it's generate commitment. Have a conversation to make sure that they have the bandwidth. They have everything needed to get the job done, and they are committed.
Yeah, I like I'll just jump in, Steve, because I want to add some comments on the top of these.
Yeah.
Just from my perspective. So the E after the L, right, which was let them know what you need. So establish the parameters. So this could be like, hey, I think we have 4 hours to do this work. If you're over 4 hours, you just let me know. I'll get you unstuck. You can put little things in place. After 2 days, I should have something to review. After, so that's all timeline and production based, but you get the idea. So establishing parameters and then individual objective parameters, project parameters. We can't do this. We have to take this mindset going through it. This would be a good solution, but we've already talked about it and we don't want to go down that road. We should go down this solution road. Give them some targets, right? And then you said generate commitment, which is the G. Have a conversation around their bandwidth, everything you need to get the job done, committed to doing their best. This starts before you make the delegation. This starts with you having that relationship and knowing what it takes to get someone to buy into something. So that I could just see someone having a hard time with the G, with gaining or generating commitment, because you're not just going to walk up to somebody and say, all right, so here's our delegate model and we're at the G. So I just need you to be committed. It's going to fall completely flat. There's nothing, you just say, hey, be committed on this, right?
Yeah. There's going to be a level of trust that you have to build beforehand to get that commitment.
Yeah. And you can build that trust through the delegation model. I just don't want people to get stuck on the generate commitment thing. What do I actually do to generate commitment? Well, it's all the things that you've done. You've had their back. You've shown them the way. You've supported them. That's the stuff that gains commitment.
Yeah, I think a low level version of that is, hey, do you think you can get this done by such and such date? And if they say, yeah, I can do that, no problem. All right, cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and get that going then. I mean, that's like your entry level version of generating
Yeah,
that
you've
commitment.
stated an expectation. They've given you that commitment.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very good.
The A is authorize action, right? So give them the start date and any resources needed to be successful. T is track progress. Keep active but not overwhelming communication to monitor and provide updates and support.
Yeah, this is one I struggle with a lot. I like to be very communicated with often, keep track of progress and stuff like that. I've learned to like make the first update, like maybe 50% of the time in, right? I'm so overly excited about sharing, hey, where you at? Because I think I can give them tips and pointers and like, here's how you get unstuck here and all that. But I've learned that I got to like back off a little bit and let them ask for that. So I'll place something in my establish the parameters section that says, hey, at any time, if you're running into this or you're getting caught in this, you are totally welcome to let me know that that's happening at any time, right? So I kind of give them the path there, but I've learned to step back on the track progress.
It's funny. I'm the exact opposite. I like to give a lot of autonomy to everyone and to let them run into the challenges that they have and overcome them themselves, and then come to me if they need help. But the downside of that is if they veer off track, I'm not seeing that and I can't help make some corrections. And so I have to actively step up my checking in process and intervals. So
like
kind of
like everything,
approach.
it's somewhere in the middle, right?
Yep, exactly. And then the last one is evaluate the results. So once the task is complete, note what worked well, what didn't, and adjust your approach to improve. So, back to that, are you over micromanaging or are you under micromanaging?
Right.
Etc.
Anything in the engineering field, I guess everywhere, evaluating what the results that were produced are, like, and how you can do better, what went well, all that stuff is very, very important. I think it's probably the most important thing. So make sure, not only with like a delegation, but everything, that what was the result that was produced, right? And how do we get there more efficiently? How do we get there with less headache? How do we get there more effectively? What can we do better next time? Always a great way to approach many things. So,
yeah. And the other model that I want to briefly touch on is the 5 levels of delegation. And it really just goes into the intensity of micromanagement of delegation. Level 1 being direct supervision. You're telling them everything they need to know, what to do, etc. The middle is more collaborative. You're both working on something. And then level 5 is complete delegation, which is fire, forget missiles, right? Complete trust. You give them a task and then you don't see them until they deliver it to you.
right.
So definitely go online. You can search a little more detail on 5 levels of delegation. And while you're online, there's a couple more, such as like the delegation diamond or ladder of leadership delegation. Just find what works best for you. There's a lot of ways to approach, the tactical side of delegation, but just do it, right? You don't want to not delegate because you're just going to get overwhelmed and you're going to be overworked and you're going to be a lot slower at getting
You want to
stuff.
know how to get better at delegation? Do more delegation. Trip, fall.
Yep.
Figure it out, right? I would say one action item you guys can take is that 5 levels of delegation. Go look that up. Figure out which level you're at for each person you delegate to. And that'll advise you on how to structure it and then what skills to, like, what gaps to fill to get to a different level if you want to get to a different level. So know where you're at, track what you're going to do and where you want to go with your delegation skills. And I think the 5 levels of delegation there is a perfect place to create a baseline for where you're at with each person that you delegate to. Direct reports, horizontally, other people that just help you every once in a while. You should be tracking all that stuff. Well, I recommend you do. So you can always come back to it. I keep a lot of lists like this where I'm at, and it helps me to know how to move forward and not to repeat mistakes. So it's like, oh, me and Kevin are at a level 2 delegation ability, right? And I keep throwing out 5s. And it's like, next time I go to delegate to Kevin, it's like, hey, I'll come back and I'm at a 2. Because I was just about to send something off that was a 5. And so I need to kind of, it helps me remember.
Yeah. And something you'll find out throughout your career is it's going to take different levels for different people. Whether it's delegation or, communication style, everyone has a different approach that works best for that relationship. So identifying what level works for Jake and what level works for Steve or Kevin or Bob or whatever, and finding out how to best operate across the entire team. So just keep that in mind when you're setting up your optimal approach to delegation, is that it's going to be different depending on the person you're working with.
I love it. As with everything, guys, it takes work. And if you're willing to do the work, you're going to get better at it. And as with everything, there's multiple skills at play here. So we're talking about delegation, but there's a lot of skills and things that we've talked about before that play into whether your delegations will be successful or not as well. So do the work, start tracking. And this is a skill that if you develop it, is going to go a long way into not only accelerating your career, but making you more valuable, and having more leverage with that value is kind of the game. So position yourself well by learning how to delegate. And before we sign off, we have that newsletter that comes out every week that Steve does a very, very good job of putting together. We have a refocused, kind of shorter version of it, with higher impact. So make sure you check that out. Steve, you can finish us off here if we haven't covered anything.
Nope, that's about it. So you can subscribe either on LinkedIn directly. You go to the Impactful Engineers LinkedIn page, and you'll go under newsletters and sign up there. Or you can go directly to impactfulengineer.com and sign up through the website and get it directly to your email every single week. Lastly, if you want us to answer a question about any of the topics that we cover, or you are facing a unique challenge and could use some guidance, please reach out to us on LinkedIn directly or send us an email at questions@impactfulengineer.com. Take care, guys. Thanks.